I'm Hannah Wallace and welcome to FinextraTV. Kindly calling into our virtual studio today is Nik Stankau from RedHat, and we're going to be talking about extending banks' reach with new relationships. A really interesting topic. So welcome, Nik. Thank you very much for calling in.
Thank you, Hannah. Thanks for the opportunity to be here today.
No problem at all. It's really good to have you on. So yes, there's no doubt banks have moved into more digital in this past year, especially because of the pandemic. So can you set the scene for us and tell us how does that impact their ability to develop new relationships? As I said, a really interesting one.
Yeah, so what we've seen, and that is, the Red Hat view from technology side, is what we've seen is an accelerated uptake of specifically cloud technology and the movement towards, let's call it an open hybrid cloud as the key enabler. Yeah, so the topic here is about how to develop new services, but also to provision and scale them very, very quickly. I mean, you couldn't kind of call someone up to say, can you please install a rack in my data center? So therefore, the scalability and the provisioning and leveraging hyperscalers was one of the uptakes. But we also saw a differentiation. So public cloud, also due to regulations, was used for the development and the testing, while the actual provisioning, also due to the local regulations, was mostly done on the internal private cloud. Yeah, so moving workloads between different cloud providers and different services was what we saw as being one aspect. The other one, in addition to that, and we've seen that with, I mean, that was from a technology part kind of introduced already with PSD2, open banking, the API regulation, yeah, which then enabled an integration layer to actually have, let's say, a fintech or an additional service or even a SaaS service easily integrated into the platform. I always call it a little bit like the socket and the plug. You define your plug and someone develops a socket for that to actually tab into those services. And that then, to summarize, the open hybrid cloud, open APIs, those were in regards to technology. What gave the impact and the enablement for banks to explore these new customer segments very quickly as well.
All right, brilliant. You've given us a good backstory there and a good analysis of where we're up to. So tell us, what opportunities then should banks consider as they look to new relationships across the potential ecosystem of vendors, but also the partners and peer-to-peer customer relationships? What about those?
Yeah, well, there are two things of that. First of all, you need to kind of build the ecosystem. The other one is you need to kind of from a technology perspective, have the same mutual understanding. Again, the socket and the plug. So if we take it from an ecosystem perspective and we look, how can we be innovative here? That again, two aspects where we see one is the common development of platforms to test and implement new services. The other one is the API to enable that communication. Now, if you look at, for example, DBS in Singapore, they've provided 500 open APIs and how to communicate with their internal systems already. If we look at BBVA, I think they're at the forefront of building an ecosystem of partners in how to develop new services and integrating them quickly. What we see in that regard is a lot of banks actually nowadays even provide developer platforms. Yeah, so platform for developers to develop and kind of communicate with their internal systems to be able to drive new services. So that is, let's say, from an ecosystem innovation part, one thing. I think if we look into the next or into the future, what's going to come, then I see AI ML being two factors which are being looked at. Yeah, I think everybody does the first ML experiences, looking at, with their data scientists, how can we use and also monetize on the customer data? Because that's a point, I think, where banks today could still do a lot more. Yeah, and kind of drive that through the current trends that we see in delivering the next big opportunity for financial services.
Sure. So watch this space. And staying on the thought of predictions then, what do you see changing in the market for the future that makes the continued growth of new relationships even more vital? What about that?
Yeah, that's I'm looking at the crystal ball.
Yes.
I think, and I think Francisco Gonzalez from BBVA also was always challenging and made some really good comments. So I think he said that his competition is the Netflix and the Amazons of this world. And if we take that as a viewpoint and take the consumer that would like to consume banking services like Netflix, yeah. So then bringing that and extending that from a thought, we say, okay, we need to have the platform approach and the platform economy. We need to have kind of APIs to enable that technology, to have that socket and the plug, so we can use different other services which are beyond banking. And I think that topic about beyond banking, we haven't seen the last of great ideas of things coming up. Yeah, we see in the insurance business innovation where if your flight gets cancelled, you get an automatic refund. Yeah, so having these examples a little bit in banking and having a proactive approach on I want to purchase something. Oh, this is the credit. You can click a button and it's done. I think these are the services to be more on the convenience side, I would say.
Really interesting, and definitely a space to watch. Nik, you've done a really good job at painting the picture for us there. So thank you very much for calling in and sharing your insights on extending banks' reach to new relationships, and look forward to catching up further down the line and reflecting on those predictions. But for now, we'll leave it there. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Hannah. Looking forward to see you again.